for this segment, and because he kept saying inappropriate things off air and we needed to try to rein him in, we bring in Bobby Belt for the conversation. Now, there's a couple of things here, but the how and why NFL teams continually miss on quarterbacks in the draft. Now, I think it's last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, Corey, we went through the study of first-round draft picks for quarterbacks in the last 15 years, and it is not encouraging.
Struggle bus.
And so I wanted to open it up to you guys to start, and then we'll dive into some of these things that I read in an article from CBS Sports about why quarterback is the position. Broadus has talked about how difficult that position is to scout. Do you guys have theories or a hypothesis about why it's so tough to scout this particular position?
I think, Bobby, this particular position requires so much more than just the physical act of being on the field and doing the job. Like it requires a leadership, an ability to process information fast, an ability to learn beyond what you've already learned, in addition to the ability to throw and all the other physical attributes that come along with it. And I think sometimes scouts like to just go, he's 6'4", he's got all the physical things. We'll teach him this, and then it doesn't work out, or they don't know enough about the person to know if they have the drive. Whenever they studied Dak, they were like, this dude's been through it, and he's keeps coming out stronger on the other side. These other things might not matter as much as this part of, we know that he's going to be there fighting for everything.
Yeah, I think a large part of it is, because obviously the baseline is physically, what are you capable of?
Yep.
And so that's going to be the foundation for anything. And then you just start, when you're building from there, you have to understand certain things like character and specifically football character, which is not necessarily the same as character, but football character, leadership, mental processing, what kind of a student you are, how well you take to coaching, what kind of coaching did you have access to when you were at the college level versus what you'll receive at the NFL level, and having to make those sort of projections. And so I think in a lot of instances, some of these guys that we would talk about who are busts, you would say teams probably went into it eyes wide open, and they knew this was a potential. They were just projecting out. So I don't even know that in a lot of instances they misevaluated a player. They knew who they were right then, and they just misevaluated what they were capable of tapping into. Like I think of Trey Lance. When Trey Lance got picked, San Francisco knew that dude is not ready to play football right now.
Yeah.
And they knew exactly the type of, what they had to fill in the gaps on was, what can he learn? How, adept is he at picking those things up? How quickly can he take to it? And how much more can he tap into? And that's where a lot of the, scouting side comes in, where you're doing a lot of research.
I think the other addition to this is, I think teams misevaluate themselves all the time. And they think we're more prepared to take on this quarterback when they're not really. Their team's not built for it. When Trevor Lawrence was drafted, it made sense. He's the number 1 overall pick. It looks like he checks all the boxes off. But they didn't have a team. Mm-hmm. And they still don't have a team. They didn't have a good coaching staff. They didn't have a good environment for him to go into and be part of. I think owners a lot of times are just like, just fix it. And guys are like, we don't have all the things to fix it yet. But man, as Broadus says, if I tie myself to a quarterback, I'm there with him for the next 4 years probably.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these guys see it that way, and they're like, all right, I'll figure out something there. But a lot of times they misevaluate what they are as a team and whether or not they can support said quarterback.
So there are two things in this article that I wanted to key in on that y'all have started to kind of touch on: incomplete experience and trait degradation. So incomplete experience, let's go back to the SEC. Tua had 71.4% completion percentage. So it was like, oh my gosh, unbelievable. Immediately gets smoked by Mac Jones. All right, so Mac Jones, 77% completion percentage, 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. But what the incomplete experience is, did all the teams look at the starting wide receivers and say, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Smith? There is no receiving corps in the NFL that you're going to put together that has that much of an advantage on their defenders. And so he was throwing to 4 future first-round picks.
Right.
And do you factor that in? And you're like, hey, do we need to like take points off of that, or like take a look at games where maybe some of those players aren't playing, or they're not getting open, or whatever the case might be?
It's interesting because Joe Burrow is a perfect conversation on that because of who he was playing with in college.
And clearly it has worked out.
And he's turned out okay.
Absolutely.
So, but he's also, I guess he's been lucky that he got to a place where he had T. Higgins and his best friend, Jamar Chase. Obviously, that came a year later, but he has those two receivers to run with.
Well, and like you said about 30 minutes ago, Corey, the quarterback is ultimately a large part of things and responsible for it. So you could say that Joe Burrow was a bust because they missed the playoffs this year. So I liked that point you made earlier about Dak.
God.
No, but here's the thing is that when you look at, I think the NFL did take that into account. Mac Jones went 15, which a quarterback going 15 is if you're even sort of in the range, they're going to take you top 10. And Tua went 5, and Tua was the second quarterback taken off the board. So I think they do kind of factor those things in. I remember specifically somebody saying about Chase when he was coming out after Justin Jefferson's rookie year, where when you're talking about those kind of comparisons that maybe people make, I remember a scout saying, well, you saw what Justin Jefferson did this year, and it was a year ago that everybody thought Jamar Chase was clearly the better player.
Right.
Yeah.
So like they did make that connection of just like, there's another piece of evidence if you need to see it of why Jamar Chase is going to be successful, because we know we felt like we knew for a fact he was better than Jefferson at college, and he just had a lot of success in the NFL. And so they'll make those connections occasionally. I think at the quarterback position, they definitely will factor in what kind of offense you play in. One of the reasons why Trubisky went ahead of Mahomes years ago was because there was just a question of Mahomes coming out of Texas Tech, like what was he capable of?
Yeah.
It's not so much that they said he couldn't do it. They didn't know. And so for them, they go, yeah, the physical tools are there. We don't know what kind of a study he is. We don't know what he's capable of in terms of processing and different things like that. And it turned out he was great at it. But that was something you got to kind of just fill in the gaps on.
So yeah, do you like the person? Do you like the guy? Do you like the things that he can do? Those things help out. Then how long is it going to take him to learn how to take a snap under center? Or how to do things that he's never done in college.
And I agree with that, but I go back to somebody like Marcus Mariota, who they fell into a trap of looking at college production versus what he was going to go up against in the pros. Like, because for him, and he's number 2 pick in that draft, is he was chumping people out on zone reads and outrunning everybody. And then when you saw his 4.52 speed, I would have thought that you would be able to do at least some calculations and be like, hey, that basic I'm going to run free is not going to work.
How much did game plan help his anticipation on when he could run?
Yes.
Chip Kelly's offense and the way that it was built, you saw that it worked very well for college players. I've said this for years. OU has a very good system for quarterbacks in college. Mm-hmm. Outside of college, they have a lot of stuff to learn. And that's one of the systems that I don't trust, because quarterback after quarterback has come out and not looked prepared. Now, granted, they all went to bad places too. A lot of them, like Sam Bradford, landed in a bad spot. Baker Mayfield, he had to deal with Cleveland, and so he had to grow up there.
He was good at first.
Kyler landed in Arizona. Well, actually, he was good the second year, I believe.
I just mean early.
But so like their offense is built to help the guy, so it makes the guy, he's a star in college, but he doesn't have the ability without that head coach that's in his ear or working with him on a weekly basis to say, here are the things that we're looking for and here are the things that we're not. A lot of it does feel like we're looking for these things. You should be smart enough to figure it out because you're a pro at this point.
I mean, that was literally the Goff conversation when he left L.A. Was like, McVay's in your ear telling you everything to do. So how good a quarterback are you really? And then he goes to Detroit and he's shown he's a good quarterback. Yep. And he's capable of things. And so I think also the context matters too on when did you get picked? Like Shedeur Sanders could go in the top 3. Yep. Cam Ward is probably going to go number 1.
Yep.
There's a lot of teams that I think are heading into this draft saying that they don't think Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders are ever going to be like real big time franchise quarterbacks.
So do you think it's more of a disconnect of like, that's fine, that's what your scouting staff thinks, we think differently? Or do you think, I'm in this position, I need a quarterback, this guy is supposed to be the best of the bunch, so the hell with it?
Mostly that.
God,
it's mostly
so
just
stupid.
It's mostly just an approach of, I think people go, I need a quarterback and I think this guy is good. I don't necessarily think he's great. I just got to take the lottery ticket though, because the lottery ticket to me is that like if Abdul Carter hits, I don't totally care because I can take Abdul Carter and that's not going to mean anything. Cleveland's had Myles Garrett and they're still picking second.
Yeah.
And so I think to them, they just go, I'd rather take the chance on, great, that's nice that he's good, but if I don't have a quarterback, it means nothing, so I got to pick one. And I think that's how a lot of teams approach it generally. That's why Kenny Pickett got picked in the first round. A lot of people thought Kenny Pickett was a second-round player.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And
that a lot of people saw that.
And when you hear rumblings about Jalen Milroe, like why he accepted the thing to the invitation to the draft, I realize it could just be day 2, but there are some people who think because he's in the mix as a day 1 pick, and I would be like, wow.
I mean, Kuiper mocked him very top of the second round today. So, I mean, he's right there on the edge.
The position itself is valuable for sure, and then he's got a lot of things. And day 2 is the day where anybody can move up. You know, anybody can make those changes because they slept on it overnight and they were like, all right, we did what we wanted in the first round. Day 2, let's go get this thing that we really think we can have.
I don't think Milroe's going in the first round, but I would, if Milroe went in the first round, I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh. Like, because now if he went top 10, like Michael Penix did a couple years ago, that's surprising.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's a lot of people who thought Penix was going to go in the second round last year. Then he goes 8. And so it's the approach, quarterbacks are going. There's also a lot of people a few years ago when Pickett went in the first where they were like, Malik Willis will get taken in the first. And if he doesn't, he'll definitely go the second. And then he went like mid-third round. So it kind of depends how patient are teams willing to be to just say, well, I'll take the gamble because I want the lotto ticket.
Lottery tickets are fun, dude.
Yeah.
Scratch offs.
I agree, but I'm also one of the people who dabbles in the $1, $2, and $5 scratch off tickets
rather than the $1 million ones.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm probably not buying the.
You're also a Duke fan. That's like playing the lotto. Like it's just as risky.
It's kind of like winning the lotto a lot of times.
But I'm not playing the $50 or $100 one. I wanted to throw in one more thing that went along with all of this. Is one of the suggestions is do a better job of isolating what that particular quarterback does on every single play. Like, don't look at the completion as much as, well, was the completion because that wide receiver was wide open? Did the quarterback create the time? Did the quarterback read the defense correctly? And if you isolate the things that quarterback specifically did, that will at least, not that it's foolproof, but that will at least give you a better idea of what that player can do.
Now, look, last year did not go as well for C.J. Stroud, but after year 1, C.J. Stroud was clearly ahead of Bryce Young. And everybody had said, Bryce Young's the pro-ready quarterback. C.J. Stroud's the one you might have to gamble on it, clicking into place. I remember a scout had told me at the end of year 1, he was like, maybe we should have all paid a little bit more attention when he put up numbers against Georgia at the end of his career. Like, that should have made that's an NFL defense, basically. They're putting all these players in the NFL. Maybe we should have paid more attention to that instead of the S2 test that he took. Mm-hmm. And does he process like that as quickly? And Bryce Young was considered, that's the floor. That's a guy who's going to come in and he can start today. That dude's pro-ready. Everything's good to go. And then you can see just how much confidence can kill you. And so, I mean, there are some flawed aspects of it. I also think, again, teams understand what they're getting into and they're taking a risk. They're willing to take a risk. But they've also missed. Everybody thought Trevor Lawrence was a slam dunk. Ready to go, and he's not been.
No.
If you watch Caleb Williams this year, it looked like Chicago said, you got the reins, just go make some plays. Like, it really did look like they were like very reliant on you. We gave you receivers, we gave you talented receivers, go throw to those guys. And the reality is that there are some things that he can and some things he can't do. And some things he can't do because your team's not ready for it. Maybe you don't have the offensive line for it or whatever. But that goes back to the thing you heard Tom Brady say with Belichick. He never asked me to do something I couldn't do. If you know a guy can't make a throw, don't put that play in there.
Agreed.
Don't ask him to do it if you know it's going to fail and practice over and over and over, and then he can't do it, then don't put that play in. Ask him to do things he can. Grow him from there. Help him learn how to do that. Say you need to practice on this offseason, but for this season specifically, we know you can do these things. You're going to do those things, and we're going to try and win games that way.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah?
Do you think Caleb Williams is like Samson, where if he doesn't have his bleep you nails, then he doesn't play as well?
Yeah, maybe, Bobby. For the purposes of ending this conversation, maybe.